Next section, research. Our first question for this is, what kinds of research have you done and how do they influence your perspective on public health?
Yeah. So I first, while I am not in, my paid labor is not in research, right? Outside of the institute that I just started. So my research was in my academic journey and then very earlier on in my work in social justice movement. So academically, my research was on built environmental factors and systemic approaches to public health. So I looked at under-resourced, marginalized communities where I'm from in California, and communities that there was no data like pull from, like communities that are often forgot in data sets, and with younger folks. So I wanted to see like what is influencing our health outcomes beyond like. I think at the time it was like, oh, your race is the underlying variable. It's like, no, it's not. It's racism. Like let's be very clear. Like you're not disproportionately subject to these poor health outcomes because of race indicator. It's because of racism and all the systems that circle around that. So, like, I wanted to investigate that more. So, my research was on social economic status, built environmental factors, lived environmental factors, and food environment. So, I looked at like food apartheid and food deserts, and especially in under-resourced communities and within families and individuals who had lower income. So that was like my first introduction into research. I also really enjoyed, I call this ocular polling, right? Like how you, like as humans, we observe a lot, and so when we observe, like doing quick analysis on like a community and such, so I really appreciate doing rapid analyses within like communities and even within my own personal communities and creating dialogue and documenting that. Because it doesn't have to be like this, hey, we get a research grant and then we employ, all these researchers and we go out in the community and do these surveys and then do focus groups. Like that is research. And also research is like conversation too as well. It's lived experiences. It's the ways that we document and archive those lived experiences. That's qualitative data. So that's the element of research that I'm most excited about continuing to do within my journey through social justice and public health. And a lot of that is really focusing on communities and groups that are skipped in research, like our traditional research. So that can be like folks with disabilities, folks who are trans, folks who are queer, folks who are gender expansive, younger folks, BIPOC folks, Black folks, undocumented, like all of these different communities that typically aren't centered. And also a lot of the interest is even in disrupting how research is collected and how it essentially erases communities because it's collected with like these stereotypes in place. And I can talk about that at a later time. But, a part of that research work is like assessing the research that already exists and identifying the gaps and figuring out if that's something either my organization or another organization or a group, a student group or whatever would like to like address in future research.
So do you think like the groups that aren't centered right now are getting more attention as as the years go on, or do you think they should still um receive should have received more attention? Like if you
Uh, I think like what particular groups are you speaking? Like the groups that I named that
Yes,
are,
yes,
yeah.
yes, like the groups that you name.
Yeah, and I think okay, so the question is, what is the research for? Like, are people trying to just extract information from communities and then doing what with it? Like, are they using it for gain in other ways that don't benefit communities? Then in that case, no, like leave us alone. But if it's like your intent is to gather information to support the community and like getting what they need, like the community, first off, anytime you're doing research, especially if it's public health center research in a particular community, and you're like, I want to identify some of the gaps that exist or the healthcare needs or whatever. Most often, the community already understands the problem, like because it's their, they live with it, right? So, and they would be involved in the designing and the creating and the implementation of the research, and then all of these different things, right? So, like, if your goal is to be extractive and pull things out and then do nothing with it, again, leave folks alone. But if your goal is like, hey, I know this group these multiple groups of people and communities that aren't really identified in data sets. And the intent behind being identified is because we want to like galvanize additional resources, financial resources, food resources, whatever, and pour it back into community, then yes, these communities should be highlighted more.
Thank you. That was really well said.
Thank you.
Yeah. Question four. In your experience, what are the biggest gaps in current health equity research?
Yeah, so just circling back, pulling from our, discussion from question three, the biggest gaps are, well, I'll just name it. Like anytime you look at a data set, it's very binary. It's like you only exist if you're male, female, if like I don't know if you're black or brown or I mean black, white, and brown, like those are expansive categories and such. And it's like we have so many identities within ourselves, even, like even within a particular ethnicity, like there's so many multitude of identities. So I think what is missing is like we just don't have we're not being intentional. I won't say we. I think science in a whole in its entirety is not being intentional about being inclusive in how we are defining data sets, like in variables. Like you can easily erase a group of people by saying like, hey, I want to find out what I don't know, let's just think about COVID. What is the rate of folks getting vaccinated in this particular community for men and women? You just erase like people that are non-binary, trans, gender expansive, et cetera. So like, are the numbers accurate, right? Like, because we're already like removing people from a potential data set. So I think like when we speak about health equity, like let's really think about equity here. Like, are we inclusive of like everyone? And I'm just naming like binary gender, variables, but like there's so many other elements that you can be intentional around too as well. And then also I'll just name this. I understand. I say this while also understanding there is this lack of trust when it comes to research and community. That especially in public health has a very long history of just harming community from like different experiments, right? Forced sterilization of Black women, forced sterilization of people who were incarcerated, the Tuskegee experiment. Like there's a long history pulling cells from a Black woman and using it till this day to for scientific evidence and for vaccinations and things of that nature without the consent of Henrietta. Her name was Henrietta Lacks. Henrietta, excuse me, Lacks. But like, and there's multiple other examples of that, right? So there is a history of the extraction and the harm of communities that are most marginalized in this country. And then so when we're like, hey, let's center like, health equity, even in research, folks are like, but how can I trust you? So like I think there's this bridging of research, science, and public health taking accountability and being authentic with building those relationships. Because if there are those gaps that exist, we won't even get to like the issues of health inequities and what people are truly facing because there's this gap of trust.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. So our third section is work life, and then the question is, what does a typical day look like for you in your work?
There is no typical day. Um, I mean, it depends. Which I laugh inside a little bit because I remember in my DRPH program, I would ask one of my like professors who was like juggled many different things in the public health world. And I was like, I would ask questions like, so what, what about this in public health? And what about this? And his favorite answer was, it depends. Like you will learn that in public health, it just depends. So it depends on what's going on in the political environment, right? Like if there is this legislative attack on communities and I'm like, oh, maybe I have to go give testimony at the Capitol. It depends because if there is a need and community resources, whatnot, I may be like help supporting a mutual aid fund and out in community giving out resources or and when I say resources, it might be like harm reduction materials, needles, or like it may be, whatever, it depends on the need, right? Um, it might be, because I'm also an executive director for an organization that I'm responsible for, then it may look like me traveling and doing speaking engagements or speaking to funders. It may look like me behind a desk, doing research or putting together a report or what have you, or at Emory, or being invited to a lab where I'm discussing some more intentional health scares and such. So it really depends. But I think if I had to like say typical, I would say it starts with deep strategy. Like as a public health person, you don't just kind of like wake up and be like, "Hey, I'm going out in the community and figure it out." Like it's really building relationships. So it might look like me taking out my laptop and getting on a Zoom call or being here in this space here because like one, a space like this is so powerful, like student groups coming together and saying like, hey, we might not be getting what we need from these particular elements of education, like, but we want to galvanize resources by ourselves and own kind of what that looks like. Perfect, right? Chef's kiss. So like it might be in conversation with folks that invite me into a space, or as I said, I started a public health strategy and science institute, SAGE Institute, and SAGE is spelled SEJH, which stands for Strategy, Equity, Justice, and Health Institute. So a lot of days when I'm deep strategizing in that, I might be doing some like leadership sessions with my cohort of I don't know what we call them, but cohort members or whatnot. So currently, right now, I have a public health strategy think tank, which is a 3 month, 6 session course. I wouldn't even say course. It's just a space where different leaders within public health come together and strategize. Like outside of what we do day to day in our work, we come together and we just like talk about deep strategy and how we center justice in that strategizing work and all of that, those different things. So my day may compose of me like sitting in a room with 11 other public health strategists and talking and discussing what's needed and thinking about solutions. So um, it depends.
I mean, that sounds very interesting. Like, it sounds fun too, honestly.
It's a little fun.
And then question six, what keeps you motivated after 18 years of working in for health equity and justice?
Yeah, I'm gonna actually fix that. It's been 20 years,
Oh,
which I know I don't look it, but no, it very much is. And I think 18 years is on my bio, and I'm like, oh yeah, I didn't do the right math. What keeps me motivated? Well, this like ongoing strive for people to be free and liberated. Like I want to one day I would love to enjoy it. I hope that we achieve that in at least my lifetime. But if not, I have little ones. I'm a parent, so like knowing that there's someone like there's people doing work to envision a better space for my little ones like long after I'm gone, that keeps me motivated. Um, you said like it seems like I'm having fun, like it's hard work and also it's fun. Like I came into the public health space because I knew that you could do a little in a lot, like you don't have to focus on a particular area unless that's who you are. You're like, I want to be in epidemiology and focus just on this particular thing or wherever it is, right? For me, I really appreciated being able to like public health, just you can do all the things. So what keeps me motivated is like I can do so like we can do so many different things and the conversation isn't just doesn't become like exhaustive because like there's always a new strategy, there's always new people, there's always a new lens to integrate with the work. And then the last thing what keeps me motivated, as I said, I'm a parent, so like my kids, like love them, and it's I mean while there is work all the time. You also need to like center joy and rest and, like just detach a little, if not a lot. And I think my role as a parent allows me to just like, center who I truly am, even outside of the work.
yeah, I think like work and then life balance is like very important.
Hmm.
Yep. Oh, so now this is a live Q&A. Anybody can send in questions. Um, yeah, I don't have any yet. I'm waiting.
I'm also curious, with the folks that are on the call, where are they coming in from? Like, is there a way they can drop it in the chat, or is everyone in the same area?
They can put it in the chat. I'm from Minnesota, by the way.
Minnesota. You didn't say it like a Minnesotian. I don't know, like isn't there like a particular Minnesota? I don't want to mimic it, but like, it's um I was listening for it. I did hear it. Let's see.
Minnesota.
There it is. I didn't want to I didn't want to mimic it. I was going to get it wrong. But there's a lot of people from the East Coast, New York, Delaware, Indiana, Texas, New York. Yeah, it's great.
Yeah. I have a question. So,
Hmm.
like, you used to live in LA and now you live in Atlanta. Which place do you like more?
LA. No, I'm just easy question. No, I mean, I LA is home. Obviously, like that's, home. But I've been in Atlanta on and off for 10 years. I Atlanta, I think, is the root ground for a lot of things. It's the global South. It's a lot of the root grounds for a lot of systemic oppressions and inequities, civil rights movement, like a lot of the injustices that we see within the US and expansive globally have a lot of rooting grounds in the South. And because of the work that I do, I think it's important for me to be in the South. So I love that the South has this very strong movement space where there are so many movement organizations, organizers doing some really beautiful and rich work here. Um, so not take anything away from like I love all of that. But I'm home is LA. And that's actually where I got my beginning in organizing, just organizing in LA for families and such. So I'm gonna tip my hat off there, but Georgia is home now.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, do you like travel a lot for your work or?
I do, I do. So, while there are periods where I'm in, at home a lot more, where I'm not traveling as much, when I do travel, I would say it's about 70% of the time. So, and I would say it's in a particular area, but no, sometimes on the East Coast and DC, New York, or what have you. But very often, sometimes it's in the Midwest or, West Coast is kind of sporadic. And then pre-COVID, there was a lot of more international travel, especially in Africa. Like a lot of the reproductive justice work and movement work was moving us more so to work with organizations that were in Africa and different countries within Africa.
That's a lot of traveling.
Yeah.
We have a question. So, how does your work impact your friends and family's perspective on these topics, and what are something they do too?
Um, well, I will say this. So, friends and family, we have similar political alignment. And when I say political alignment, I'm not talking about like government political, like the politics of our values and who we are in the world. I'm very clear that I don't want to be around people in my personal or professional life that doesn't believe in freedom and liberation for people. Like, so if you're like, well, also this and all, like, you can just get away from me, So, um, family included. So, as far as the friends that I do have, family, I think we all have that same heart for the work of like, regardless if you are in medicine, a provider, if you are a librarian or like whatever your work brings you, we still have the same like focal point or entry point of like, this justice-centered approach. And yeah, so I think that's important. So if you are part of a friend circle and or family dynamics that are just like not in alignment with that, and this is the work you want to do, I would like assess your circle, regardless who it is, assess because as I said, like I don't want to be surrounded by or a part of anything that doesn't truly have that as it at its core.
Yeah, I think that's a great mindset. Another question is, what advice do you have for young adults who are interested in public health or pursuing healthcare?
Um, hmm. I would kind of back to what I just said around like what's your entry point into the field? Like I would ask yourself a really honest question, like try to be brutally honest with yourself. Like, why are you getting into this field? And I say that because like when I was growing up, it was like, listen. and we didn't have any resources. I grew up in Crenshaw, California. If people aren't familiar, because I didn't see a lot of people put California or anything on the West Coast. There's LA, and there's LA that people think is LA, like, oh, it's nice and Hollywood, and I don't know, nice things there. But I grew up in the hood, so I'm like, it was nice because I was around community, and but not because of these other things that people deem as nice. But like when I was growing up, it was like in order to you have one or two options, be a doctor or a lawyer, figure it out, and the goal was to make money so you can give back to your family, right? um I didn't have the space to be like, what truly do I want to do and why do I want to do it? So if you have this space to be like, okay, I want to be in medicine or I want to be in public health, and it's not because of the money. Like, if I make good money along the way, awesome, right? I can more to pour back into my family or my communities. But if I'm in this because I truly care about individuals, communities, like I truly want to see people free and liberated, I truly want people not to die every day of things that are preventable, because people don't listen to someone because of their identities. Like it's silly, some like a black woman or someone that's black, queer, trans, brown, can go into a medical facility and not be listened to and not believed about what their medical complaint is, and then never walk out of that facility because of like medical racism, like those things. So like if you're like, I don't want to see that, I want to shift systems and people and all of that, that's why I want to be in this work, then have that honest conversation with yourself and then get into the work, right? Regardless, whatever your entry point is. But if your conversation is like, I think it's a cool field. Ever since COVID, public health got popping. Like everybody's doing it. Like I want to be a doctor because like that's what my family told me to do. Or I want to be a doctor because like I can make money and it's a stable job for like a long-term career. Then don't do it, please. For the life of whomever you're going to harm, like don't do it.
I think that's great advice. I have something, this is off topic, but
Mhm.
do you know the TV series All American? Have you,
Mm-mm.
'cause you mentioned Crenshaw and then I think that TV series is based off that place.
Oh, I'll look it up.
Okay.
Mhm.
Yeah. Any more questions, guys?
But I know Insecure, the TV series Insecure, is like filmed somewhat in Crenshaw too as well.
Yeah, they have like Crenshaw High School and everything in the yeah.
An All-American.
Yeah.
Now I'm going to check it out.
Um all right, I think we'll probably move on from this one because I'm not
Okay.
getting any more questions. Yeah. Let's see what's next. Oh, this is about like Science Holic now. So check out the first edition of our global slash public health and health equity slash ethics magazine on our website. And then these are our socials if anybody wants to check us out. Um, yeah, it should be in chat too. And then if you want to work with us, you can join as a team member. We can do content, editing, art, outreach, social media, AP Toolbox, or be an ambassador. And then you can also submit your magazines or blogs to us and have them featured. And then you can also join our mailing list. And then this is our link tree. Thank you to our partners. And then thank you everybody for joining us today. We have another session today at 6:15 to 7:15 Eastern Time. And then thank you so much, Dr. Redman. It was a honor to meet you. And then you had very great advice.
Thank you for inviting me into this space. And if you have any like follow-up questions, you all know well, the folks at Science Holic know where to reach me. So please don't be a stranger and continue to do this really great work.
Thank you so much.
Thanks. Bye-bye.